Come on. What do you mean you don't know how to love yourself? What do you mean that you don't know you're worthy? What do you mean you don't know that you're worth your own attention? Hi there, my name is Damaris, former corporate girl turned self-mastery life coach. I help women get out of their own way and get to the clarity that they need, and setting you up with your next steps to solve those problems for you and get to your clarity. What do you mean that you don't know how to give yourself your own love? This can be such a triggering thing for many people, especially now where self-love is the buzzword everywhere in healing spaces. We talk about you need to love yourself more, pump out the affirmations to make sure that you love yourself more. Almost every single video or post that I come across on social media about some person in a relationship or at work, basically in any relationship with other people, and they are finding it maybe a little bit hard to be in those spaces. If you look at the comments, it's almost as if everyone will just keep on parroting the term love yourself. Oh, go and love yourself better. You need to love yourself more. I was thinking about this when I finished editing a video that I had just recorded with one of my clients, and in there I was trying to understand what her results were in terms of the coaching that we did in her 12-week program. She mentioned something that I found quite profound. She said that through the 12 weeks, she later realized that she deserved her own attention too. This person is a person that identifies, has the tendency to please people more than any other thing, and that is how they relate in relationships. As a result of the work that we were doing, one of the things was to recognize that she deserves her own attention and her own love. I found that quite fascinating that somebody could say that, especially now in this world where women are encouraged to be loving of themselves. And I had come across many women who, when we spoke about this in private coaching, I realized that it's not as simple as just getting into a bubble bath. It's more than just a bubble bath with wine and chocolate. It's something that is inherent, and it needs to be learned. And I dived deeper into this to understand what could be the reason why women struggle to love themselves. When I was going through the most at some point a few years ago, somebody told me that I needed to love myself better. Love myself better? What do you mean? But because I am very curious, I dug deep to understand what this person meant. And while they didn't explain it at the time to me, nor did they ever, what I then saw was that in some ways I was struggling a little bit with loving myself, in the sense that I now understand it today. And what I figured was that I was doing a lot of journaling and excavation on this particular issue, and I found something that was quite fascinating, and I was surprised that many people would resonate with this. I started talking about how are we even allowed to be loving of ourselves when we are bombarded with having to look outward. As a girl growing up, it was my job almost to make sure that the household was taken care of. And in that mix, there was no time for me. So we were taught to look outwards. There is a proverb that says the person who plants the tree never gets to enjoy the shade. I found this to be the response when I was requesting for something to be reciprocated in exchange to how things were happening at home. And I recall this was said so many times, and I did ask, what does this even mean? Because it does make sense that if you plant a tree today and the tree takes 20 years to grow, you will probably get to enjoy the shade, but not as long as other people, if we want to be technical right now. Not for as long a period as other people that you're going to leave the tree for. And I grew up with people who used a lot of proverbs, a lot of euphemism, and a lot can be lost in that. especially if you are a very logical person, you kind of want to understand why things happen the way they do, and then you get these as responses from the people in your life. The way in which a girl child was brought up in our time, over 40 now, in our time, where they were expected to be so attentive to everybody else, and they were taught that is the expectation, they should just take that. So reciprocity was never something that was encouraged. At best, it was discouraged to expect. So we would hear things like, no, if you do good, do not expect that this person will do good for you, like tit for tat. Don't expect tit for tat in life. Rather, understand that your good deeds will be paid back elsewhere by other people, and probably in tenfold or 20-fold. This sounded very attractive and enticing. So you mean that if I am great to this person onefold, they don't have to do anything for this onefold, but somewhere along the line of life, I will get the tenfold, even though I don't know where that is? Is that what you mean? It sounds very attractive, and I suppose maybe it was meant to sell the idea of selflessness. But now, when I look at the times when I started asking myself, do I even love myself? Do I even love myself? And I had to do the work to get to a place where I could be loving of myself, and I could actually be conscious enough to be able to say, yes, I do love myself. And I know that what we see now with the law of attraction is that if we focus on affirmations and just repeat these affirmations, it will eventually catch on. When you're still working on you not being able to look yourself in the mirror and love yourself and understand that you do not need to be people pleasing in order to be worthy of other people's kindness and affiliation and love, and that you can also give yourself those things. Slapping on affirmations at this point is a little bit premature. So we need to first excavate how we got to this place. And I see affirmations as a next step. So as I've said, it really is no wonder that we are going to struggle with self-love if the input message was that we only need to be focusing on loving those outside of us. And if this does not resonate for you, that's okay. Then I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to people who were so good looking after other people, anticipating their needs, anticipating their next move. All of those things contributed to the people-pleasing identity, and because it was rewarded, it is easy to keep going with it. But what we don't realize in that moment is that the more we people please, the more we lose the connection with ourselves. But because we expect that the only place where we can get validation of our worth and whether we are lovable or whether we deserve certain things is going to be from other people, then at that point we are going to weigh the pros and cons and say, all right, if I do it for myself, I don't even know what that looks like, so I don't know what's the reward for me loving myself. Nobody sees it because we don't know. We were not taught how to be loving of ourselves and what the benefits of that are. So now we look at that, we compare it to being hyper attentive to other people. And when we do that, we get rewarded. So people pleasing gets reinforced in that moment. So you feel that you are better off doing this. It keeps you safe. It gives you a little bit of validation. If you do it well enough, you can get good rewards. So now that your caregivers, your parents, teachers and all that, they're no longer in your life, now you are the adult, you just carry on doing what you were used to, continue to people please and seeking validation from them. And when it doesn't come, you start convincing yourself that, what do I know? In any case, it was said that my good deeds would probably never be paid back by the same person. So when people treat us badly, we then get into this justification mode that we were taught. So when we see people pleasing getting a bad rap, as it probably should, I am very careful to be blaming the person who chooses to be pleasing other people, because I understand that there is so much that brought them here. So as my client was saying and telling me in that interview, which you can watch here, when she was telling me that what she has discovered with being on this 12 weeks of self-mastery was to identify that place where she now knows that she too is worthy of her attention, that she is worthy of her love, she is worthy of pouring into herself as well. I loved hearing that, and I know that to get there, it took some work for her. So I was very proud of her. Maybe what we should be looking at is to determine, how did one become a people pleaser? If you identify yourself as a people pleaser and you are kind of sick and tired of that, identify that. As my client did, we did a lot of journaling. We did a lot of excavating her reasons for people pleasing. And some of them, they still stuck. Even for myself, the reasons I wanted to be a people pleaser had a lot to do with the way I was brought up. And I did a lot of body work, a lot of inner work to get to a place where I can be okay with that not being my default. Does this mean I no longer care about people? That's not what it means. Because at my core, I am somebody who loves people in her life. But the people pleasing that came with me having to abandon myself, that is the one that I feel needed the attention. And that's where I went. And that's where I can now say, yes, I know myself, similar to what my client was telling me. I know that I love myself even if I am not in a bubble bath with champagne and chocolates. What else have we seen, right? Even when I'm not in those scenarios that are being said to show that you love yourself, I know inherently that I love myself. I can now tell myself that I love myself. When my kids were young, they would say things like, oh, I love myself. I don't recall ever saying that about myself. Maybe I did, I don't know. Maybe I don't have that memory. But as they grew older, I like knowing that they can love themselves, whatever that looks like for them. So people pleasers, this is for you when you feel like you are up against the world because you don't even know how to be if you are not pleasing other people. When we are taught that to expect reciprocity from other people is selfish or wrong, that will only make worse the need to be people pleasing, because this way you are now putting that onto the next person to be validating of you, because that is the expectation. And that sets us up so badly for bad behavior of other people, and we carry on because we believe that they don't have to treat us well just because we treated them well. So as a people pleaser, you are at risk of bad behaviors happening in your life, bad treatment, bad relationships, just because you choose to not see it as bad or unacceptable to you, because you were taught that it should be acceptable to you. Now is the time to look at this tree and shade proverb and decide what that means for us. As humans, we survive and thrive in communal spaces. So it is our duty to ourselves to make sure that we get ourselves in spaces that allow us to be, that allows us to also have things poured into us. As a people pleaser, do notice that you are pouring out all the time. So it is time to take stock and seek places and people in your life where people can be pouring into you. whatever that looks like for you, because it's going to be different for each and every person. Explore that and get in touch with exactly what it means for you. If you need help with this is the work that I do in my coaching program, that excavation and setting you up with your next steps to solve those problems for you and get to your clarity. Once you get in touch with this, I promise you, it will improve your happiness, your wellness, and your well-being in general.